Hello, beautiful people. Hope you are enjoying your Memorial Day weekend. It is a rainy day here, but we are going to make our own sunshine, concentric rings of sunshine called jalebis. It's an Indian decadent dessert. I'm actually surprised that the Indian race even has survived and is not extinct after this crazy dessert that has been served over the years, and it's convinced me that it's beyond just sugar and the fats that we eat, perhaps stress. Anyway, this beautiful plate right here is going to be filled with saffron-laden jalebis in a little bit, and I'd love to share my recipe. I had tried this recipe out last week for my mother. It's a gluten-free version of the white flour recipe. So it's a little bit healthy, but don't let it fool you. It's still soaked in ghee, which is clarified butter, and then soaked again in sugar syrup. Let me introduce you to my gluten-free jalebi. So instead of white flour, I'm replacing it with all-purpose baking flour. I'm using Bob's Red Mill. It's 1 cup of the gluten-free flour. This particular bowl would normally have dairy yogurt. I have replaced that with coconut yogurt, and this is half a cup of coconut yogurt. You may want to use regular yogurt. I just did not have any in the refrigerator. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Now, since we are making an instant jalebi recipe, we're going to add baking soda. If you're going to ferment the mixture for overnight or 7 to 8 hours, then you don't have to add the baking soda. Half a teaspoon of cardamom powder, and these are some of those interesting, amazing Indian spices that just add to the flavor. It's amazing. Half a teaspoon and a few extra drops of white vinegar. I added those few extra drops because since I didn't have yogurt, it would have added to the tartness. I'm compensating that by adding a little bit tiny bit vinegar, and half a cup of water. So this is your mixture for the jalebi that we're going to fry. Once the jalebi mix is ready, we'll set it aside while preparing our sugar syrup, and we'll fill it in these bottles, and that is our squeeze bottle. And then it'll be fried in ghee, clarified butter. Organic Valley is one of my favorite ghees, and I am going to add a little bit of saffron into the mix. Although it doesn't call for it, I'm going to add it just to give the jalebis a little bit more of a yellow shade. Now, typically, we would add a yellow color in India, but I'm very opposed to dyes, and so I'm going to replace the yellow dye with turmeric. And it will give the jalebi a similar color, and turmeric in general is that antioxidant and amazing anti-inflammatory spice. So really, it's an unhealthy recipe with touches of healthiness. Syrup that we will prepare, and I'll show you how to. I'll be using a cup of granulated cane sugar, 3/4 of a cup of water. I'll add half a teaspoon of cardamom spice. And that's actually the color right there, cardamom spice. About 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, and I'm going to try today a little bit of rose water, and again the water will have a little bit of saffron in it. So let's get started with our batter. I have a cup of gluten-free flour. We'll add half a cup of yogurt, and I'm using coconut yogurt. Baking powder, 1 teaspoon, a nice heaped teaspoon, and water. And let's stir that all together. Here's the vinegar. Sorry, that was the vinegar. Cardamom powder, let's get a little bit of that color going using turmeric. That's enough. Just a few dashes of that. Look at the color of that. Oh, let's get some saffron. And that's it. That's our jalebi mix, and we are going to get it all in this squeeze bottle. So I have all the mix in the squeeze bottle. You can even use a plastic bag and cut the end of it to squeeze out the concentric rings. So let's set this aside. This recipe will make about 20 jalebis, maybe 15 if they're left, because my family starts to eat them as soon as I fry them. So let's go ahead and make our syrup. The first thing we need for the syrup is sugar. I have a cup of granulated cane sugar, 3/4 of a cup of water, and let's get the heat going. I've added the sugar and water to this pot, heating it. The sugar has melted pretty much, and all we have to do is now thicken this liquid. And it's hard to explain it, but when you thicken it, it should be about a string. You should be able to form a string. So let's add some other ingredients. This is saffron. Look at that rich, wonderful color of saffron. This is what gives it this flavor. It's just unique. It's difficult to describe it. You can buy saffron in many stores. It's a little bit expensive. It not just adds the flavor, but also coloring. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom. So that's about 1/2 teaspoon of cardamom into the syrup. And about 1 teaspoon of fresh lemon juice. That's it. And my personal favorite will be rose water, about 1/2 teaspoon of rose water. So hold it. So you can see the syrup, I'm reducing it. It's been about 5 minutes, and it does take a little while, but it's starting to finally thicken. And when we set it aside, it's going to actually get thick once it's cool. So I'm going to turn this, actually I'm going to leave this on, but I'm going to set this aside for our jalebis to be dipped into it. And you'll see what I'm doing with it. In the meantime, I have taken clarified butter or ghee. And again, if I haven't already mentioned, Organic Valley ghee, you can pick this up at Whole Foods, or I think even ShopRite carries this. And you melt that into a pan, and you want it moderately hot, really not piping hot. And you keep your mixture ready. So we've heated the oil. It's about moderately hot. You don't want it too hot. And let's do a tester. And actually, we are ready. So here are my rings. I'm not great at this, people, but I am trying. The first time I made jalebis, I did not fry the rings quite enough. I was quite in a rush to take it out, so I know better is to take my time and fry it. This is like funnel cake dipped in syrup. And there you go. You still need to fry it more to make it crispy. Otherwise, they turn out to be very soft. So you bring them to a golden brown color, and we'll transfer it to a plate. It's smelling delicious. I hope it tastes great. And the syrupy water is absolutely delicious. It does smell like jalebi, people. Sophia, does it smell like jalebis there?
It sure does.
Oh my gosh, I don't think we should leave. So this isn't very golden enough, but we'll come to it. And let's go ahead and pour the next batch in. I'm sure there's a better way of doing it in different parts of India. I'm just not very good at it. So this is New Jersey jalebis. Sophia, this is going to be a real winner. See? The oil is nice and hot. And it's that color you want, the crispy golden color, and that's what cooks the jalebi batter as well as gives it the color. Getting ready, and as soon as you take it out of the ghee, you take it, you drain out the ghee a little bit, and you immediately dip it into the syrup. I'm sure there's a better way of doing it, but this is again my version of the yummy jalebis. And by the way, we already had a few bites and they were amazing. Okay. So, even though our jalebis are not perfect concentric circles, they actually are delicious. For gluten-free, a gluten-free recipe, the fact that we forgot our yogurt and we had to substitute it with coconut yogurt was a great thing because we reduced the dairy input for dairy-free people. It was absolutely delicious. Thank you for letting me share this recipe. And now, do you want some recipe? Do you want some jalebi, Narayan?
No.
No? Well, Narayan doesn't eat jalebi.
I have
But wait.
some.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy.